Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about After Effects, the actual effects, an overview. There's over 200 effects and presets built into After Effects, and it's really fun to get in there and mess around and find out what they can do. So we're going to do an overview today so we can think about what it is you might want to try. So to start out, you want to open up After Effects, and I brought in Felix the Cat, one of the first projects that we worked on in class. Felix the Cat is in the public domain. It's one of the first images that was ever broadcast on television, so I think it's kind of fun. We're going to start out here and you're going to say Composition, New Composition. Go ahead and go File, Import, and bring in your file that you want to work with. And if you don't have a file you want to work with, you can just do this with a solid layer. And you would do that by going up to Layer, New, Solid. And then make sure it matches your comp size. I'm at 1920 by 1080. And right now it's showing blue. I could either pick a color from something I'm already working on by using the eyedropper tool, or I can click on the color and go and pick a color that I want to work with. And I'd say OK, and I'll get a solid color that automatically goes into that new composition. Now you can see when you're looking down here at mine that I've added a couple other solid colors already as I was playing around with different effects. Now generally the solid color you select does not matter. Occasionally it will show through, and so sometimes you will need to be conscientious about which color you select. So let's just talk a little bit about what we're looking at here. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to turn off this new solid color I just made, and I'm actually going to hide the Felix for a moment. And I'm going to turn on this deep blue solid color. So I'm clicking on the eyeballs next to the layers to turn them off or on. If I click on the little triangle, it's going to open it up, and then I open up effects, and you'll see that I added the CC rainfall to this particular solid color. Now, if you want to solo a layer, you click right here where there's just a dot, solo. So if I wanted to hide everything without going and checking all of the eyeballs on or off, I can solo a layer by just clicking right there. And when I select an effect, if I go to rainfall, all of those options are going to be up here in the left-hand corner so that I can go through and make the selection. So I can change the drops, the size, the scene depth, speed, wind, and anytime you see this little stopwatch here, that means that you can animate. You can hide a special effect by just clicking the FX. That'll turn it on or off. You can do that here in the upper left-hand panel, or you can also do that down here on the actual timeline. So whichever works, it does the same thing. You can also delete if you have something and you don't want it on here anymore. So if I go down and let me turn on this yellow layer that I was working with, I have here a starburst pattern. I can select that to get those options to change up above and change the scatter size. But if I decide I don't want it, I can select it and quickly just hit delete on my keyboard and it will disappear. Control Z would undo to bring it back if I accidentally deleted the wrong item. You want to make sure that your mode is showing here in the timeline. If it's not showing, click on the 3 lines next to your composition and go up to columns and make sure that modes is turned on with a check mark next to it. And that also applies to any of these options here. Now you'll see in the right hand side, you should see your effects and presets. Generally, if you click on Essentials, that should show up. Otherwise, you could go to Windows and make sure that that's selected, Effects and Presets right here. If you know the name of what you want to use, what effect or preset, you could type this here in the search bar. And since there's over 200 effects and presets, it is a very handy feature to be able to search for something you've used. But if you're just exploring, because you haven't used this before, you can click on these carrots or arrows and open them up and find out all of the different things that are in here. So backgrounds, we have an apparition, a block, cinder, circuits, cosmic power, creepy curtains. Is this crazy? There's so much in here. Different behaviors, wiggle, special effects, crack tiles, night vision. There's transitions, just like you're used to in Premiere Pro. We have sound effects. So I want to get the 4-color gradient, and so I can click in 4 and see if it will pop up. There it is right here, 4-color gradient. And I'm going to apply that to my other layer that I was just added at the beginning of this video. So I'm going to click and drag and drop that onto that layer. And this is the default colors. And you could also have found this effect if you come up to Effect, Generate, 4-color gradient right here at the top. So just like Photoshop there and Premiere Pro, any of the Adobe programs, there are multiple ways to do the same thing. Now when you're first starting out with anything new, I think it's a really good idea to just kind of poke around and look at options that are available. We can also look up here in the effect and we'll see that there's 3D channel, audio, blur and sharpen, channel, Cinema 4D, which actually has training about that program all by itself, color correction. So this is a really good way to get your different video to have a similar look. Distort, lots of fun ways to distort and make really cool, interesting backgrounds. Your expression controls, generate, this is where we found the 4-color gradient. There's also cell patterns, checkerboard, there's so much in here to play with. Your keying, here's where you're going to find the key light as well as advanced spill suppressor that we talked about in the key light video. There's different types of mats, noise grain, obsolete, perspective, simulation, stylize, here's a vignette, synthetic aperture, text, there's the time code if you're wanting to count down, time, this is changing the time within your video, different transitions, and here we've got some utilities. So there's so much in this area, and the best way to learn and experiment is to get in here and just try them out and see what's going to happen. So one that's kind of fun I thought was to add some snow or rain. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to solo this layer so I just see this layer, and I went up to, I could type in snow, and here's CC Snowfall is what we're going to use. It looks like there's a graphical snowflakes. I haven't tried that one. I drag and I drop that to this Felix the cat, and it's a little hard to see on the white, but when you come over here, let me go ahead and turn off the rainfall. You can see the rainfall. I added both rainfall and snow. And if I wanted to, I can come down here onto snowfall and change some of these options here. So if I want to increase the size of my snowfall, I can come in here, scrub it up so that it's higher. And this shows really nicely on, I actually put it, I have it on a normal mode, but I did add, let me turn on this particular layer, which was yellow, I added the starburst. And what I did here is if I had it on normal, this is what that starburst looks like. But if I go in here and I'd go screen, it's going to blend with the layer below it. And so that kind of gives it a whole different look. So this is Photoshop has all of these same options here that you may have played around with before. And so this has it where it just shows up more in the black and it hides more in the whites of the image. Now it does have a yellow tone, so this color of the background does make a difference, and so it's possible you might want to change that. And I could double click here, and then if I want to go in and adjust the scatter size so it's more or less, gives a really cool effect. I can change the speed. Alright, so the best way to learn is to jump in here and try these different effects. If you need just a solid background to get started, just go Layer, New, Solid, and that's going to give you a solid background so you can play around and see what the effects do. You could also bring in any video that you've worked on. So now it's your turn. Jump in, explore, have fun, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with.